Ugh. This is gonna hurt me more than it hurts you. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I am Adorkable Rachel, and it's time once again for another episode of Rachel Remembers, where I take a look at something from my childhood and possibly yours, so let's just hop into it. Well, Rogue One, a Star Wars story, is finally opening this week, so I thought it'd only be fair that we take a look at the prequel movies too, since this upcoming movie is supposed to be taking place between episode 3 and 4. However, upon recently watching all these movies, again, with a roommate who had never seen them before, so you can imagine how that was, there's obviously a lot you can say about these movies, but there's really nothing new to complain about. I mean, we all know it's bad, we all know the acting's stupid, we know the characters are stupid, we know the stories are stupid, and they don't live up to the epicness of the original trilogy. But the reason I made this a Rachel Remembers episode is because I can at least tell you what I thought of them when they first came out, as well as what I think of them now. So unlike the other reviews, I'm not really gonna go into a lot of big plot details. Maybe we'll go into that kind of stuff later one day if it's demanded. But for now, I just want to talk about what I thought of them when they first came out, because I was a different person completely when all of them came out, and then compare that to what I think of them, well, today. So strap in, kids! So let's take a little venture back in time, all the way back to 1999, when Pokemon was at the height of its popularity and before the Y2K bug and other big world events took control of our inner fears. Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, was released on May 19th, 1999. I was 11 years old and about to graduate from grammar school, so as you can imagine, I was a bit of a naive, innocent, adorkable youngling. I of course remember there being a huge build up to this movie, and the word that was passed around a lot in the marketing was the word fun.
Share the fun.
Okay, so here's the first problem. When you think Star Wars, I don't think that the word fun is really a word that comes to mind right away. I would think the word epic is kind of the word that summarizes the whole trilogy. So when you call the new trilogy fun, you know you're in trouble. Especially when this movie is anything but fun. Or epic. I of course went and saw this movie in the theaters with my family. In fact, just to get it out of the way, I did see all of them in the theaters. And I will be really honest, upon the very first time I saw this movie, I kind of enjoyed it. But again, remember, I was 11, I was naive and innocent. Kinda. I had already seen the original trilogy in the theaters, so of course I was already well aware of who Vader was and who Obi-Wan was and all that jazz and kind of their history and everything. So upon first viewing this movie, I did kind of find it interesting to see Obi-Wan and, Anakin and how they first met each other. Obi-Wan and his master take Anakin in, the Jedi Council is hesitant about training him, yada yada yada, some interestingly boring battle scenes and political stuff thrown in there. Yeah, it's a huge mess. I think at the time the things that really caught my attention, besides watching how things kind of came together, was probably the pod race scene and then also the lightsaber battles. Not so much the story and not so much the characters, just more of the kind of, exciting stuff. But I will say that actually the lightsaber stuff does hold it pretty well nowadays. Not so much the pod race scene. Although now looking back on it, I really don't think I was that big a fan of the lazy alien designs as well as all the stupid ass poop jokes. Yeah, even when I was a kid, I was never a fan of that stuff, seriously. If anything, I always liked Looney Tunes slapstick humor. Also, when I was younger, I don't think I was quite able yet to tell the difference between a really bad actor and a really good actor, so I didn't quite despise Jake Lloyd's performance like I do now.
I'm a person, and my name is Anakin.
But I certainly didn't think much of it either.
R2, get us off this autopilot. It's gonna get us both killed.
Kid, you're in space and you could die at any minute. Could you like to show a little bit of concern in that tone? At the time, I think I was also pretty interested in seeing how things from the other movies played into these films. So, like how R2-D2 came to know Obi-Wan and how C-3PO was roped into all of it. But now when I watch it, it just seems a little too convenient if you ask me. Seriously? Vader built C-3PO? Really? Really? I mean, if C-3PO was gonna actually be in these movies, then wouldn't it kind of make more sense if maybe he was in the care of Bail Organa? Ugh. So I know there's also a lot of really confusing political stuff, and even as an adult, I don't even know what it's all about. I can't follow it. I know I'm not the only one who can't follow it. And even when I was a kid, of course, obviously I didn't give a crap about it, and kids today don't give a crap about it, so seriously, what was the whole point of all that stuff? It's like you made a movie that like couldn't even appeal to kids or adults, hardly. Okay, fine, you know what? I take it back. It does appeal to kids, sadly. Yeah. Interestingly enough, this movie still does attract a lot of kids to this day, but that's probably thanks a lot to the really weak action sequences, as well as the really lame humor, and then also, of course, there's Jar Jar.
Leaking in here, all sinking and no power? When they use a thinking, we in trouble!
Yeah, apparently kids really like Jar Jar. Ugh. You know, when I was a kid, I honestly wasn't super annoyed by him, but much like Jake Lloyd's performance, I don't think I thought much of him either. I was an obnoxious kid on antidepressants, okay? I don't think that Jar Jar's personality really fazed me that much. Now, of course, I think he just really sucks the dignity out of this franchise. And again, there's really not that much you can say about this character that hasn't been said before, but it really does make you wonder how something just so despicable and lazy could actually make it off the cutting room floor. Oh my god! Dumb luck does not make for interesting storytelling. Stop it! You need to die. Finally, one more thing I actually want to talk about with this movie is Darth Maul. I do remember him being used a lot in the marketing, because let's face it, he is a really cool looking character, but also, yeah, he actually turned out to be one of the most interesting parts of the movie despite how little he's used in it. This guy worked for the Emperor, and I guess he was sent out to take down Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan. Okay. Again, they're not being very subtle with their good versus bad imagery, but again, he just had a really cool design, so I don't blame people for really being interested in who this guy is. And hey, he's also a lot of fun to watch in that lightsaber battle scene. However, my one really big complaint of this character, and I know I'm not the only one here, is that why in the world was he axed off so quickly? Like, why wasn't he carried over to the next movie where maybe Obi-Wan would have to face off against him and avenge his master, and then also maybe battle with, you know, turning to the dark side too? I mean, it certainly would have made the next movie a hell of a lot more interesting, but we're getting ahead of ourselves, so yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. By the way, speaking of Obi-Wan's master, Qui-Gon Jinn, wasn't it originally said that Yoda trained Obi-Wan?
There you will learn from Yoda, the Jedi Master who instructed me.
Huh? So basically, the Phantom Menace was somewhat enjoyable when I was a kid, but it does not hold up at all. Even as its own movie, the story makes no sense, the acting is terrible, the worlds are okay. But to me, these days, the computer graphics of the sets and buildings look very video game-esque, and it's hard to really believe that they're actually there. And I know this movie was trying to create a lot of answers in the Star Wars mythology, but it actually ended up creating a lot more questions. Like, I mean, what exactly are Jedi in this universe anyway? Are they a religion? Do they have a rank in the Republic? And if they're so prominent in the prequels, why in less than 20 years did everyone forget about them? Gee, it's almost like you don't care about continuity, George Lucas. What happened? I will say though that the one really good thing that came out of this era was that kick-ass Weird Al song that they always played on Radio Disney. I don't know if Weird Al genuinely liked the film, but he does sound pretty enthusiastic when he explains the nonsensical plot.
My, this here Anakin guy, maybe Vader someday later, now he's just a small fry.
You know, I think Weird Al gets it. 3 years later, we got the next Star Wars film, Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. I was now 14 and about to graduate from middle school, so I think I was a little more aware of how bad the last one was, and I hoped that this time around it would be a hell of a lot better. And if I had to sum up this movie in one word, boring. Oh my god, this movie is so boring, you guys. There's more political talk, and then there's like all this talk of clones and blah 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 blah. I really don't give a crap. And then there's Anakin and Padme, and apparently they're like all in love, but how can you tell when all their scenes are so awkward and all they say is that they're in love, and it doesn't really make any sense to the context of the story, and OMG, I don't care. The one thing in this movie that's kind of interesting and makes sense is that a lot of Anakin's anger comes from his mother dying, and yeah, that is sympathetic, but all he does is whine throughout this movie, and he says that he's angry and frustrated, and I know this poor kid is directed badly and that's why his performance is the way it is, but I just don't care about your problems, Anakin. And again, there are a lot of action sequences in this movie too, but they are just so surprisingly dull and unexciting. It just seems like the movie didn't know how to fill its time, so let's just put a bunch of unnecessary battle scenes to pad it out. Okay, thanks for that. The effects of this movie are also pretty terrible, and what the fuck? That would have totally hurt your badge, girl. Who the hell are you kidding? Girl, come on. I know that you're Natalie Portman, but you're not invincible. And I really don't know what else I can say about this movie. We got CGI Yoda, which sucks. Although back then it was kind of cool to see him in that lightsaber battle. Christopher Lee does help a little bit, but that's because he's Christopher Lee and he rules all. And something else to mention is that I actually do like Ewan McGregor in this movie. He really does feel like the younger version of Alec Guinness's characters, so he really is one of the few saving graces of these movies. But other than that, the only thing that I personally remember from watching this in 2002 is that Anakin and Padme got married at the end, and we all know what that's leading up to. God, this movie is forgettable and unimpressive. I got nothing else. Let's go to the next one. Actually, one more thing I have to ask. If C-3PO was in the care of Owen Lars for a long time, wouldn't Lars have maybe recognized his dandyish personality years later when he purchased him in the first movie? Again, just more things not adding up here. Maybe he should have been with Bail Organa. Eh? Finally, 3 years go by and we got the conclusion. Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. And this one being the final movie, I swear to God, it is just so... Nah, it's okay. I know I'm not the first one to say this, but back in 2005, I finally felt like I was actually watching a new Star Wars film. Not only does it actually start out like one and the plot actually seems to match those kinda sorta of the original trilogy, but as a whole, it really is the better of the bunch. I mean, not really, but you can tell it's at least trying. This one deals more with Anakin getting close to Palpatine, who, by the way, turns out to be the Sith Lord, cause yeah, no one saw that coming with him being played by the same actor from Return of the Jedi. Anakin very quickly turns to the dark side. I mean, like, seriously, like a light switch, he just kinda turns. And then there's all the Jedi being assassinated, which of course leads to the downfall of their existence. Which I honestly don't get, because you'd think the Republic would not be so hot about the Emperor just assassinating all the Jedi, but whatevs. But it's also kind of confusing when you think about it, because for someone like Han Solo, the Jedi Order are kind of the stuff of legend, even though he was probably a teenager when Revenge of the Sith happened. Again, doesn't really add up. The movie does have some good moments, and actually it does have a couple of powerful moments too, but unfortunately they're not enough to save the movie. And unless you're paying really close attention, you almost miss just how C-3PO doesn't remember any of this.
I'm placing these droids in your care. Treat them well, clean them up. Have the protocol droids mind wiped.
What?
Well, that was clearly thrown in last minute on set. Just gonna say it one more time. If he was in these movies, maybe he should have had a smaller part, and maybe he should have been with Bail Organa. I mean, God! And then there's the moment that really pisses me off, and this is when Palpatine becomes deformed. Like I said in my Jedi review, I feel like we're supposed to get the sense that the dark side had taken a toll on him over the years, and that's why he looked that way. But instead in this movie, it's because it turns out he was scarred from a battle, and if you ask me, that just completely undermines what I think Jedi was going for. And honestly, I don't really know if that was the intention when they made Jedi, but from a film language standpoint, that's what it seemed like. Tell me I'm wrong! And of course, there's the biggest moment that seems to really just downgrade all of these movies as a whole. Oh my God. Okay, see, I was in high school when this movie came out. I was 15 years old, I was wearing a lot of black clothing, and I was very cynical, and I was very much aware that these movies were terrible, so I went to go see this one as kind of a, okay, how are they gonna fuck this one up? Oh my God, I lost it. I fucking lost it when this part happened. I mean, really? Vader is finally the badass we all know, and rather than have him be diabolical, what's the first thing he does as Vader? He whines.
I couldn't have. She was alive. I felt it.
And seriously, I think even James Earl Jones knows this is stupid, because he does not put any effort into this line. So yeah, by the time these movies were done, I think we finally caught on, and we knew for a fact that these were in no way living up to the epicness of the original trilogy. And when you think about it, these movies are not the worst thing ever. They're really not, but it's still really sad to think that these movies are actually canon. Which now leads me to talk about my personal biggest problem with these films. You want to make 3 prequels that lead up to the original trilogy? Okay, fine, whatever. What I don't understand is why you couldn't have made these movies so that there was just a little bit more of a you know, mystery to them. Because when you think about it, these movies are made to have a direct connection to the original trilogy and to kind of bring everything together, but you can't then watch it in any order except for the order that they were made, which means episode 4 to 6 and then episode 1 to 3. But, like, why would you not create them so that you could watch them from episode 1 to 6? I mean, couldn't you have created some new original characters that you're not sure of how exactly they connect to everything, and then maybe it somehow adds up, but there's still a little bit of a mystery, and you could, you know, again, watch it in chronological order where it still made sense and there's still suspense and... Why not? The Star Wars universe is made up of so many different characters that don't have direct connections to the original trilogy, so why couldn't you have made it in that manner so that there's some subtle connections? I know I could go into this for a while with a lot of different factors of this movie, but I'll give you guys one small example. We all know from watching the original trilogy that Padme does give birth to Luke and Leia. So when you show her doing that, there is no suspense when you watch Revenge of the Sith. And if you were to watch it in chronological order, there would be no suspense whatsoever when it turns out Vader is Luke's father, because we already know that. So really, no matter what order you watch them in, it doesn't work. I mean, why couldn't you have made it so that it was hinted Padme was pregnant, then have her die, and then also maybe just have it hinted that the babies were saved or not reveal their names? I mean, at least that way it would create more tension for the audience because that's also a bit of a mystery. And then watching it in chronological order, we wouldn't know that the babies were Luke and Leia all along. I mean, I don't know, just something. It would be really cool if you could get something out of watching them in the right order, but no, instead you have no choice but to watch them in the order they were made, and again, even then, there's no suspense by the end. And the reason this really bothers me is because what is the point of having them called episodes 1, episode 6, episodes 4? What is the point of having them have episode names if you can't watch them in that order? So in a very big nutshell, those are my thoughts of the Star Wars prequels and what I thought of them when they first came out, and yeah, I could go on for a really long time about these movies, and if you want to see more of that, then feel free to let me know, but now it's time to move on so we can go see Rogue One and see how that turned out, because technically that is episode 3.5, so I guess that's where everything starts to get interesting finally in this trilogy. Seriously, Disney, you did so good by episode 7. Please, 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 please don't let me down. So those are my thoughts and memories of the Star Wars prequels. Now, of course, this time around, I want to know, did you grow up with these prequels? Did you see them as an adult? Did you like them at all? Did you not like them? Is there anything redeeming that you got out of them? Well, go ahead and leave your comments below. Be sure to like and share. And if you're new and like what you saw here, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And as always, please be sure to keep checking back for more Adorkable videos coming out real soon. Oh, and go enjoy Rogue One! I'll be writing a review of that movie too, so be sure to check back for that as well. Bye, Adorka buddies!